Is Marcus and Terry with you today to talk about emotions in sobriety. What are emotions? How do we deal with them? How do we deal with them sober? How do we deal with them drunk? How do we deal with them when we're trying to quit drinking? So, if you can hear us okay, type something in the box. Terry, give us a little sound check and tell us your thoughts about emotions in sobriety, and we'll dive right in.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. It's good to be back. I had a good trip visiting my family and my dad, who's he's in assisted living. So that can be an emotional time to see him on a slow decline. But being there, that's one of the things that helps the most. And emotions they can be a big thing especially in early sobriety. I know, growing up as a kid. I was in one of those non-emotional families. I don't think I ever saw my dad cry. I don't think I saw my mom cry very often. Just a very low emotional family. So I didn't show many emotions growing up and well into adulthood. And eventually, as alcohol took over, I used alcohol to kind of suppress a lot of the emotions.
Mhm.
And since getting sober, they've all come back, and sometimes it's difficult to deal with them. In early sobriety, some of the common emotions that we have to deal with are like the shame and the guilt over like past actions we've done when we were drinking, or anger over things that maybe we see people have done to us or that have happened to us, and fear of like what's going to happen with maybe some of the repercussions of our drinking or just anything in life. And also remorse, that's can be another big emotion, that's or self-hatred, resentment towards yourself
Yeah.
because of drinking. So emotions can play a big impact in your life, and especially in that early sobriety and going through sobriety, because we have them and they're a natural part of us, and that's okay. That's what I've learned, is that it's okay to have emotions, and it's really a matter of learning how to deal with them
Mhm.
is the key for me.
Yeah, and I think the key to realize is like once you get sober, your emotional life changes towards things. Like you tend to think that things are okay, right? It's like okay, it's going to be okay. It's painful. And I was watching a documentary, which next week topic we're going to go over happiness. What is happiness? How do you deal with it? And this documentary was talking about how people respond to things, and it was saying how in our lives we think that things are going to be a lot tougher than they are. We think that things are going to be a lot bigger than they are. But humans have a crazy ability to respond and adapt to things that get into their life. It's like, okay, maybe you lose a loved one, like I lost a loved one last week. Maybe you deal with a crazy circumstance. My wife's been gone for a month taking care of her grandpa who was dying. And you look at these things, and sometimes you think it's going to be the end of the world or things are going to be really, really crazy difficult. But in the long run, it's not really all that much. Like we look at it and it's like, okay, we might have done some things, but here we are now, and where you're at now is where you're at. And you want to embrace that. Like, okay, here I am. I was under the influence. Like they call it that for a reason. They say, I'm under the influence, or that guy was driving under the influence. And it's not that guy was driving like an asshole. Like we've seen those people on the freeway that drive like an asshole and they can't blame it on alcohol, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, you're just a dick, that whatever. But you also see those people who are under the influence, and you're under the influence, which means you're kind of hypnotized, or you're kind of put into a different state by a substance, right? And that substance is alcohol. Now, in my right mind, I wouldn't treat people the way that I did. I like to think that I'm kind of a loving person. I try to see the good in everyone. But when alcohol came into my picture, it made me more on guard. Like I wouldn't hang out with Terry back as an alcoholic. I would have been like, oh, that guy, he does his thing, and I wouldn't have given him the time of day because that's the kind of person I was. I was just very self-absorbed, and it wasn't that there's anything wrong with Terry. Terry's a wonderful, great guy. I'm glad I don't have the alcoholic fog that says, pick and choose these people for your gain. right? I was always picking and choosing people for my gain. What am I going to get? How's it going to work for me? And when I got in arguments, maybe I would get in a political argument or a financial argument or whatever it is, and I would look at it and I was under the influence. I wasn't acting out of my right mind, my life philosophy, my actual nature. And I think what happens is when we strip the alcohol away, we get down to our actual nature. And it can be scary. It's like last week where we are talking about, when you're water skiing and you go out into the unknown area, and the unknown area is scary. It's wobbly. You don't know if the boat wake is going to keep you up because the boat wake not there. And that's kind of how life is. You get back to it and you're like, wow, I'm living vulnerable. I could get hurt. I could have this happen. And when we're drinking, we're so protecting ourselves from getting hurt. But the funny thing is we're hurt all the time. So it's like, we're hurting ourselves. But we look at it and it's like, okay, what if I choose to live free and I choose to live out of love rather than living out of fear? And that could be scary for some people. And I noticed when I got sober, I started being a lot more emotional. Sometimes I was kind of like apathetic or turned off. And I learned to just be okay with where I'm at. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is okay. It's going to be all right. Right, Terry, what was your experience with that?
Absolutely, the same thing. When I first got sober, the it was kind of an emotional roller coaster. I was, from the day I got sober, I was super happy to be sober. So I had a lot of gratitude. I was pretty much happy most of the time. But then all of a sudden, I'd be thinking about stuff I had to deal with that I'd been blowing off for years and years, and things that they were like overwhelming, and that could have been a trigger for me to start drinking again and just drink it away and not worry about it. I'll deal with it tomorrow, no problem, and then never deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was huge. I lost my mom in September and a dog, and those were emotional times. It was tough, and she was declining over decades, and it was a difficult thing to deal with. But really, just moving forward is what I did to deal with it, and it seemed to work and kept me reasonably happy, and that's that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Um, that when I was drinking, I would just drink emotions away. Some of the things I did feel when I was drinking was the
Yeah.
fear of what was going to happen. But then I'd drink and drink and go, I'm fine. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Just
Mm-hmm.
like many of us always say, and then I would have the just fear. It was really everything was fear based. What
Mm-hmm.
people think of me? Do they think I'm drinking? Um, what's going to happen? Are they going to make me quit drinking because I love it? Things like that. It
Yeah.
was it was difficult. Dealing with emotions now is much easier. And just like you said just a couple minutes ago, just be okay with it. And it's okay if I have to cry. It's okay if I have a little bout of depression, as long
Sure.
as I understand what it is, see it for what it is, try and identify maybe the cause. And if I don't, it's okay. Just understand that things are going to get better. Try to be grateful for where I am and what's going on in life
Well,
and
and I
move
think a
forward.
lot of times what we try to do is we try to fight being human.
Yeah.
We try to fight like, okay, well, I'm going to fight that, and we look at the world as this happened to me. This happened to me. And for years, I looked at the world that way, and it was like, this happened to me. But it's in reality, it's happening all around us. Like I see all those memes on social media that said the world doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. And I'm like, I don't really believe that either, because like, okay, is it really happening for me? Are you going to say that to some, guy who's starving or someone who lives in a hospital and knows that he's going to die or something like that? Like, is that happening, or is it just happening and we're just part of it? And look at things that are difficult like abuse and people who treat you wrong and things like that as, hey, that's not happening to me, that's happening, and I just happen to be part of it, right? And we look at it and we're like, well, that person would probably do what they do anyway. Like, it doesn't matter that I'm there. If there was another person there named, Skip, the same thing would happen, or whatever the name is, right? It's like it's going to happen anyway. And we look at it, and emotions are not going to kill us, but alcohol probably will. And I find that with alcohol, it turns us into that this happened to me, right? Like, suppose you got, your husband had an affair, or your wife had an affair, or something happened, and we look at it and we drink and we say, whoa, that happened to me. That guy did that to me. It's personal to me. And then you start to look for reasons. Maybe it's because I'm not, rich enough, pretty enough, handsome enough, tall enough, short enough, whatever. And we start to look for reasons rather than just saying, hey, that's that guy's bag. And it's something I've learned recently in sobriety is, hey, you know what? That's their deal, and we don't have to engage. Like, it takes two people to argue. Someone could yell and argue all they want, and I can get emotional because, like, for me, I had past trauma abuse when I was a kid. I had the angry step parents that yelled all the time and threw things around the house, and it was frightening. And now, when someone yells, it puts me back in that state. But I'm able to look at it now that I'm not drinking and say, you know what? I'm not 9 anymore. I can walk outside. I'm not 9 anymore. I can choose to disengage, right? Sometimes my choice is to not argue. Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to win that? Sometimes my thing is not to fight, right? I really don't care who wins or loses. I just care about being serene or, being okay. And oftentimes that diffuses things. Like, a guy has a really hard time fighting with someone who doesn't fight back. And, if you're not a fighter, you're going to, be a lot less bruised up if that happens too, because they're going to give up after a while. But we have to look at that and we have to say, you know what? Life goes on. It is what it is. And instead of looking at the things that are taken from us, right? A lot of people, our society is so bent on what was taken from you. That money was taken, that person was taken, that life was taken, that relationship was taken. Rather than, hey, you know what? I got to use that. I got to have that person in my life. I got to be part of this thing. And looking at it at a different perspective. And I find that perspective changes everything.
Absolutely. You were talking about the infidelity and stuff, and in a previous marriage, there was some infidelity, and not on my part. And the emotions for me was exactly what you just said. It was, this is happening to me, and I had severe resentment against the other guy, and it was, why is he doing this to me? He's my friend, and all this and that. And, you know, this is why it's important to really try to go through these things slowly, understand what your part in it is. So I had to do that. I had to look at what was my part in it. Well, I was drinking, and I was constantly drinking. I was married to the bottle, and that's what it was all about.
Mm.
And my wife at the time, she needed something. She needed a husband, not a roommate that's drunk and not there,
Yeah.
mentally and physically. And um, so she was just reaching out to a friend who was also my friend, and that's it. And then one thing led to another. Of course, she had some part in it, but really, I had a huge part in it. I
Yeah.
could have been a loving husband,
Yeah.
maybe not constantly drinking, and that was a huge emotional time for me, and I ended up just drinking it all away, and drinking the marriage away, and drinking my life away, and it just went downhill from there. And sometimes that's how we deal with emotions and while we're drinking.
Yeah.
And since then, I just have slowly worked through it. It took time, but it was really important to look at the situation for what it was, and
Yeah.
that helped me move on. And
Yeah.
it's
And I.
okay. We actually, I am not best buddies with the guy anymore, but we've shook hands, and we've talked, and it's all good now. It's amazing how things can come around.
Yeah. And it's interesting too because, like, in early sobriety, our idea is to fix everything. And I think in early sobriety, we should just chill and not try to fix everything. Um, focus on sobriety first, because we're going to look at it and we'll be like, oh, well, I got this, I got that, I got to fix this. And blame game, like, oh, who's at fault? I was at fault. This person's at. Maybe look at it in the beginning and say, you know what? Maybe right now I'm just going to stay sober and see what happens. And the funny thing about life is it takes us where it wants to take us. Like, we can plan all we want and we can strive for everything we want or every person we want or whatever. But in the end, we really don't know. In the end, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, something tragic can happen, something wonderful can happen, something sad can happen, something happy can happen. We don't know. And I think the key is to look at it as this is a journey, it's not a destination. And, really look at what love is at the core and say, hey, love is the absence of fear. And if I'm living in fear, I'm not living in love. And if some other people are living in fear, like most of our planet does, at least in Western culture, they live in fear and they don't live in love. And what happens is your heart gets really small when you live in fear because you're trying to protect the last bit you have rather than trying to be open. And it's an argument I get in with my wife all the time, not like a heated one, just a disagreement, where she's the kind of person that says, hey, you know what? I would rather not love and not lose. And I'm like, well, I would rather love and lose. The whole would you rather have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I want the passion, I want the love, even if it means I can get hurt, because that's an experience. And I don't want to live my life trying to protect from every little experience. And I don't want to live my life trying to hide in the bottle from my emotions, because, like I said, emotions aren't going to kill us, right? They're just there. Our society has this way of oppressing things and saying, no, don't feel that way. You're supposed to be the manly man who doesn't cry. And, it was interesting because I always thought that growing up, I was the tough guy. I was not to cry. I was not to feel anything. I was not to be hurt. I was supposed to be tough and in charge. It's like, screw that. Says who? Who says what tough is? Maybe the guy who's crying is tougher than me. He's showing his stuff, and we have to look at that and say, what are these emotions? What is it that I want? What is it that I desire? And for me, I desire to live open. If that means I get hurt, so be it. So be it.
Yep.
And to me, that's where I'm at. And some people might have a different view on it, and that's cool. But whatever it is, stand for it. Because it says, it's been said, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for everything. And the people that are trying to get hurt that are trying to stop from getting hurt are more often the people that end up hurting themselves. Like us alcoholics, we're trying so hard not to get hurt, so we're drinking away these feelings, which in the end, I mean, how's that working for you? Didn't work a damn for me. It prolonged things, it made it difficult, and it made it just a lifelong struggle. And I mean, if you were still drinking, you'd probably still be dealing with, I know if I was still drinking, I'd still be, wallowing in the things that were taken from me rather than having gratitude of the things that were given to me. Like, my grandparents were given to me, right? They weren't, like, taken from me. I got to have them. That's great. I got to be part of their life. They got to be part of my life. And yeah, sometimes it hurts when people are gone, but hey, such is life.
Yeah. I find that living honestly and open and being true to myself, trying to do the right thing, not trying not to hide things or lie, stuff like that. That just makes handling emotions so much easier because I can be real. I can talk to other people openly. I don't have to think about all these things that I need to hide or whatever. And I can live in humility, which makes things just so much easier. Understanding that I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I need to talk to somebody about it and work through it. Maybe they can help me. Maybe just talking to them is going to allow me to help myself. But that seems to be what works.
Absolutely. Let's hop over. We got a lot of people in the comments.
Right on. Hi, Brittany. Good to see you, Cassie.
Brittany, Cassie,
Jennifer, and Michael. Good to see you, Michael. Right on. 35 days. It's awesome, man. Remember when you first got on here. Good job.
And Drew. And let's see who else we got. All right.
Jennifer, sorry about getting a divorce. That's always a difficult thing. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's very difficult. Yeah.
And what'll make it more difficult is continuing to drink.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
difficult. And if you just look at it for what it is, I mean, it's two people who maybe naturally ran their course. Sometimes that happens in life. It's like, for me, marriage has been very, very difficult for me. A lot of people don't know that about me, but it's been a very difficult thing. I met my wife when I was 20 years old, and I thought I had everything figured out. I was a pastor, preacher guy, and us pastors, we got it all figured out. Everyone comes to us for answers. But I figured out all I knew was what a book said. That that's about it. And there's lots of books out there, and so it's been difficult. We kind of looked at it as love happened to us rather than we choose it. And it's been what 18 years of off and on difficult things, and sometimes in life things just run their course, and people go their own ways. Sometimes something happens drastically, like infidelity or someone just choosing up and to leave one day, and sometimes that's what happens, and we got to look at it as for me, the idea of true love is letting someone be free, right? Letting someone be free to do what they're going to do. If I am hindering my significant other from their happiness, and the choice is like, okay, live miserable with me because you put a ring on my finger, or go be happy somewhere else, I'm going to choose for you to go be happy, even if it hurts me, because I don't want to be the one to hinder your life or hinder what it could be, and vice versa. I don't want someone else to do that to me. And we got to look at it as like, if I truly love someone and they want something else, let them do it. That's, hey, that's maybe it's a little sad that things don't work out the way we thought, but sometimes I think in our culture we're trying to force things too much. We're trying to force things into what society looks at as normal or what's supposed to happen. And we got to look at this and say, well, who says it's supposed to happen? Who says it's supposed to be this way? Who says I can't be happy or whatever? And that's not to say go be an ass to everyone so you can be happy. It's to say find your happiness where you're at, while also, looking at the happiness of other people, if that makes sense. If not, I have found out that on our show, Terry will save me from anything that doesn't make sense by making it make sense. So,
Oh my God, the pressure is on. Well, what I found is that uh, I agree with what you said about true love, definitely, and letting the person be free. That's huge,
mhm.
and trying just you said it right there. You're good.
Okay, so it did make
It's all
sense.
good.
Good. All right. Cassie says, I'm so proud of myself. No perfect record, but huge progress for me. No alcohol for 13 out of the last 17 days. Cool. That's like a 90% or something. My math is right. Might be a high 80. I don't know. Drinks were associated with birthday celebrations and hubby's band events. And I think what we're going to learn is drinking's pretty much associated with everything. For an alcoholic, and in our culture, drinking is associated with everything. Like, I can't watch a movie without seeing some kind of drink. Like, it's impossible. We watched several movies with the kids over the last couple of weeks. It's been pouring rain here. And, there's always some kind of drink. There's always something, like weddings. Like, who says we're supposed to get hosed at a wedding? Like, really? We're supposed to be celebrating, not like falling all over each other. And, some people are normal drinkers and they're okay, and that's for them to figure out. But I think it's interesting to look at like how bent our culture is on going to alcohol as the solution for everything. So we got to watch that.
And
But
you can adjust your celebratory activities. So today is a birthday for me, not my belly button birthday. I've been sober for 5 years. And the
congrats.
way I'm going to celebrate is I'm going on a 100-mile bicycle ride on Saturday. And that's what I've done. I've missed 1 year, but 4 out of these last 5 years, that's what I've done. And just to celebrate that fact and celebrate what one can do uh, when they get sober. I went from barely being able to walk to a 100-mile bike ride in 1 year, and it's amazing what you can do.
It
So
is.
there you go.
Yep. And you can celebrate in different ways. And you can
Yeah.
even, choose not to have alcohol when everyone else is celebrating with alcohol. Like, I find that it doesn't really matter all that much. It's actually better to be sober.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I look at it and it's like, you go to a wedding and you don't have to wake up the next day and be like, did I like hit on someone or, act like an idiot or get in an art? What the hell did I do? You know? And to me, that's the biggest gratitude. And if you guys need something to be grateful for, be grateful every day you wake up without a hangover. Like, to me, that's like, wow, I feel good. It doesn't feel like my liver wants to jump out of my body and punch me in the eye. I don't have to worry about the things I did. The OCD thoughts are under wrap. When emotional things happen, I'm calm, cool, and collected, and I could still feel them. Right? I don't have to act like a crazy person. I don't have to deal with that, and that's something to be grateful for every day. Is I didn't have to drink today.
Right.
You know. Cassie says, and now that I'm staying sober, it's amazing how ridiculous and out of control chronic drinking seems. Very true. You have heard me express frustration with self about feeling like a professional quitter. Well, I think the old adage goes, it's really easy to quit, but the hard part is staying stopped. Because staying stopped is a new life. Like, we have to learn a new life where it's like, hey, we're okay with these emotions, we're okay with these feelings, and we're okay with what's going on. It doesn't mean we have to like accept it. It just means we need to be okay with it and say, hey, you know what? I know drinking is going to make this worse, and nothing makes an alcoholic worse than drinking. Nothing makes your professional quitting worse than drinking. Like,
Yeah.
if you continue in it and you look at the way that your mind is tweaked just a little bit, and this is why the first drink is so dangerous. You might say, well, I can have, a drink, or I can have a whatever, just one's going to be okay. And we don't know. Maybe one will be okay, maybe it won't. But I know for me, the one tweaks your brain just enough to call everything else off.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to put you back in it because the way the brain works is you have pathways and things like that. And these pathways get built around repetition. And for years, you've grooved a pathway in your brain that says drinking equals euphoria, drinking equals feeling good, drinking equals not sad anymore, drinking equals shut myself off so I could be confident, or whatever drinking equals for you. And when you put that first drink in, it's going to go, ah, yes, I now hereby and henceforth remember how wonderful drinking helped me in these situations.
And
And boom,
that's gonna hit hard too.
it does hit hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Terry, what was that like for you? So you were sober out of rehab,
Yes.
and your thoughts were starting to return to normal. You're starting to see a new way of life.
Yeah.
And what was it like when that first drink was poured on that?
My first drink happened before I had my first drink. I was going to meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in a meeting, and I was like, I'm going to go get a bottle after this. And that's what I did. And the second I made that decision, that euphoric feeling started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and got that bottle, and yeah, it was confirmed. And all those emotions that you just described, the euphoria, the happiness, all the problems are going away, which obviously they didn't. They just got 10 times worse right away. But
Mm-hmm.
that was a feeling that I got. And yeah, it was a month of horror, really.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Yeah, it is. It's just you got to watch those pathways because they will happen, and that's why in recovery they call it the fuck it's. The fuck it's are a pathway, right? It's
Oh
a
yeah.
pathway that says fuck it all. I know the solution is to drink or whatever, and that's what happens is that neural pathways opened up, and it's like bing, here's a solution, right? And it's going to light up because you're going to feel a certain way, and your normal response is I want to get away from this, like anxiety, right? Everyone hates anxiety. It's like a big thing. There's all kinds of pills. The pharmaceutical company makes billions off of anxiety. And what is it? It's us wanting to run from anxiety, and we never really deal with it. Like, you can take pills your entire life, and I see my dad. He's got anxiety, and he has a certain pill that is his go-to, and he's. I don't know if he's addicted or not, but I mean, it'd be really hard for him to let it go. So maybe that would be addiction. Does it cause negative consequences in his life? Not so much like things we'd see, but um, the guy, here he is 40 years later, and still doesn't know how to deal with anxiety, right? And I'm like, well, I'd rather spend like a month dealing with anxiety hell and learning to deal with it rather
Right.
than 500 years of like ignoring it. And I found that, hey, it's okay. Like sometimes it's just because I had too much coffee. Sometimes it's because I'm a little anxious around lots of people or whatever it is. Um, and we got to look at that for what it is and say, hey, it's a lot easier just to deal with it than to try to cover it up. And we're always trying to run from emotions instead of just saying, let's embrace it. Let's just be there. Brittany
Yeah.
says, my emotions were all over the place when I was drinking. Yep, right there with you, girl. I handled difficult situations, my husband leaving terribly, and said some horrible things. Now I can have calm and productive conversations. Exactly. Now we're free to like solve the problem, right? Who would have thought? And that's the thing is like with me, a lot of my drinking was tied to like money and status and things like that. And I realized, hey, you know what? You can't really solve a money problem drinking. Like it's really hard to
Yeah.
make more money or go to work when you're piss ass drunk. It's really difficult. And it wasn't until I got sober that I was able to look at it and be like, well, is this really that big of a problem? Like, is it really that big? You know, maybe you're in debt. Well, yeah, the whole freaking country of the United States is in debt. Big deal. So what? You're going to be okay. That doesn't mean go like rip things off or do unethical. It just means like, hey, you know what? Debt collectors can't collect what's not there to collect. So I really can't do anything about this. I mean, you know, sorry, buddy. I think Chase National or Washington Mutual, I think they're going to be okay without my couple $1,000 or whatever it is. They're going to be all right. And, you only have what you have. And that's kind of a different way of looking at it. Or a spousal argument. It's like, hey, I can't undo the past, but I could be here now. I could feel now. I could be okay now. We're going to be okay. You want to take some of these other comments here?
Yeah, I'll comment on what Brittany just said as well, because you were talking about your husband leaving and how you handled the situation's difficulty, and difficulty, either way. When I was drinking and going through the divorce, it was the same thing. I just handled all the situations very badly.
Mm.
Um, we dealt with most of it by email, not even talking. And yeah, I sent many bad emails and things like that. But it took a lot of time. But in sobriety, we get along now, and I've seen my ex, and we were concerned about each other, how we're doing and all that, and we have a decent relationship now. And it did just take some time. So I hope that helps, because I know you've dealt with this fairly recently, or you're still dealing with it. Cassie says, I'm so stoked to be finally doing this. I'm getting the wins. And yeah, emotional roller coaster is hard. Marcus, your words have been life changing. Emotions can't kill you, alcohol will. And yeah, amen to that. And thanks so much for the cheers, Jennifer. I need all the encouragement, just like anyone. Yeah, that's true. And that's what's important about coming here, getting on our Facebook group and talking to us and talking to other sober alcoholics. It just the emotional support. We understand each other like normal people don't. So yeah, keep it up. Let's see.
Richard Young says, I relapsed after one whole year. Richard, what I would do is I would look at what led you to that, like follow the trail, and then also look at what kept you sober for a whole year, because I just relapsed after a whole year. You could look at it that way, or you could be like, shit, I stayed sober a whole year. That's pretty damn good, right? Like, why focus on the one day or 2 days or whatever? Why not focus on the year? Look at what you did that year and say, okay, for the last year, this is what I did to stay sober. And this was what was my button, because every one of us has buttons, and we have buttons that'll make us go drink. Like, it's almost automatic. It's almost like you can't control it. And in life, there's a certain amount of things, right? Like for me, I'm kind of shocked that I had a very difficult month and drinking's not on the menu. Like, hey, that's pretty cool. And the reason it's not on the menu is because I learned certain things along the way and I trained my brain a certain way. Now, for Richard, there was something on the menu that was like, hey, these things happen. I'm going to go drink. All right. So now what you got to do is you got to look at what you did for the year. Be like, hey, I stayed sober for a year, but hey, those buttons got pushed. Maybe I ignored something. Maybe I pushed something to the side or said, whatever, it's going to be okay. And it just built and built and built, and I didn't deal with it. And boom, one day it was like, hey, this is what's going on. It's like the uncle you have that, is like the calm, cool dude who stuffs everything down, and then one day he just snaps. It's kind of like that. So we got to look at it and say, what am I going to put in place so that this doesn't happen again? What am I going to do every day for my sobriety so that this doesn't happen again? And chances are you neglected the things that you did in the beginning and you stopped looking at them, and maybe you
Yep.
got the fuckets or whatever it was, and you look at it and it's like, okay, well, what did I do? Because congrats, you stayed sober a whole year. And he says, I'm very pissed off with myself. Today is day one again. Well, don't be pissed off.
No.
Look at it as, hey, the menu was there, the buttons were pushed. I wasn't prepared. Next time
Yeah.
I'm going to be prepared. So I got a year, and I fucked up for a couple of days, and now we're going to add on to it, right? And maybe we'll start a new thing in sobriety where we have a dash, and we're like 1 year dash 1 day, okay? Because you still got the year. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't lose everything you remembered in the year. You didn't lose all the sobriety, all the things you learned. You just took the pathway that was easy at the time. Okay, what are you going to do next time to watch out for that? Right? No need to be pissed. Whatever. That's not to say, hey, whatever, go drink and start adding dashes up and I'm 1 year sober in 1 day and 5 days. And that's not to say that. It's to say, get back on the horse. Remember that life is better sober, and keep on going. And look at that year and say, I'm going to bring this year with me because I still got it. Right? I might have to take 2 1-year chips, but whatever. So what? Right? It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. What means something is, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? What's your choice now? What am I going to do now to be happy? Because oftentimes we drink because we feel unhappy, and we feel unhappy because we have this certain idea of what life should look like for someone who's happy. And they actually did that documentary I was watching. We're going to sum it up in next week's. They were talking to this guy who is an Indian rickshaw puller, right? And he doesn't even have shoes. His house is a tarp, and like half of it doesn't even have a wall. And he's like, I'm pretty happy. And they compared it. They had this little test, and they're like, this guy is happy as the average American. And the average American gets pissed off when their coffee maker doesn't work, or Starbucks is too crowded, or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
get the fuck over ourselves. We have it made. Like, if you live in America or a developed culture, if you're sitting here with air conditioning and internet and all this stuff, you won. Like, you're winning. You got it. Most of the world lives on $1 a day or less, or $2 a day or less, or whatever it is. So if you made 3 today, you're winning. Right? So there we go. That's my 2 cents on that. What about you, Terry? What's your take on that?
Richard, I talked to many people that have come back to sobriety, and they have had time sober 1 year, 1 month, 10 years, 20 years, even a person recently with 30 years that started drinking again. And yeah, they're all pissed off, and they have a lot of shame. Of course, they're embarrassed to admit it. That's what keeps a lot of people from going back to meetings, is they're embarrassed. And uh, really, it's just what happens. It's part of our disease, and it's something that you just have to move forward with. And it's I'm not going to say it's all good that you started drinking, but it happens. It's okay. Move forward. And just what Marcus said, these people say a similar thing. These are people in AA rooms, so they say, well, first thing I did is life started getting good, and I stopped going to meetings because my life was getting busy, and then I stopped working the program. And that's what I see, is that people stop working their program, the thing that got them sober, the thing that worked to keep them sober for a few months. Then they had to start working again, they're getting their family back or whatever, and then they stopped focusing on sobriety. I just posted on the Facebook group that a little quote that says, sobriety has to be the most important thing in your life without exception. That's if you're an alcoholic. And because you might think all these other things in life are more important, like money, job, maybe even family. But if you don't have sobriety, you're not going to have any of that stuff. At least I'm not. I know that. I
Yep.
may not even have my life. It almost killed me, my last bout of drinking. So it's important to just think about what worked and try to get right back on that program. And this time, stick with it. It's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the key is like, hey, you know what? Do what you did in the beginning. Nunu says, "Good morning. I made it. I'm 1 week and 2 days sober. Cool,
Right
awesome."
on.
He also says, "I've read this book called Staying Sober. Gives a lot of good info. Love it. I'm tired of relapsing. Seriously tired of it." Yeah, just
Yeah.
stop relapsing. Like, what are you going to do instead of relapsing? What are you going to do instead of going to the bar? What are you going to do instead of wallowing in your feelings or whatever it is? Um, Drew says, I went 8 days sober, then 4 days off. Now I'm back on sobriety again. I don't feel guilty when I drink, though, because I rarely ever get so drunk I black out. Um, I just don't feel like drinking too much anymore. Well, I would look at it and be like, well, is drinking working for you? Like, over the last 12 days, you spent uh, four of it or a fourth of it drinking. Is that working for you? Does that work? And I think we find that a lot of things don't work. Like for me, just having a Bud Light at lunch didn't work for me. Just having drinks at night didn't work for me. Just drinking on the weekends didn't work for me. I had to take it off the table and say, hey, you know what? I'm done with drinking. It's not working for me. I need to make new things. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because what you learn gives you options, and what you do keeps you sober. Like I can learn all I want. Oh, hey, this is that. This is from my childhood. This is, whatever letters of disorder I have. But what I do is going to keep me sober. Right? What am I going to do? Drew says, I realize the hangovers for me are just feeling exhausted all day the next day. I'm so sick of that. Yeah, just be done with it. Bobby says, thank you guys for your lives. Saving my life these days. Super supportive. I've been sober for 3 years. Awesome, Bobby. Congrats on that. Okay.
Oh, speaking of emotions, my dog has a cone on his head, and he's very emotional. I gotta let him in the room.
Yeah.
Come on in, buddy. Sorry about the whining. He'll calm down in a minute.
That's all right. Mine's whining, but she's up there in the pool area, so she doesn't. We can't hear her. Cassie says, wow, Terry, 5 years. Congrats. That's so amazing. Truly happy for you. Cool. Let's see here. Renee, talk about conditions.
Lay
I've been
down.
more than 3 months sober, especially here in Quebec. Summer, hot temperature, and free time barbecue made me drink again. I feel bad about it. Well, figure out what you're going to drink instead at the barbecue. Have a plan.
Yep.
Whether it's some kind of non alcoholic drink or whatever it is you find good. I like seltzer waters.
Yeah, think about what you like.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
always.
nowadays, there's so much different stuff you can drink.
Oh yeah. Somebody told me Trader Joe's watermelon seltzer was really good. I haven't tried it, so I
There you
can't.
go.
I don't know, but there's some good stuff out there. That's the latest one I heard about. That's really good.
All right. Danon gave you another congrats if you want to read that one.
I'm lost. Hold on.
Look for the lion face. It's right above the lion face one. There's a little lion
Oh,
face emoji.
oh, right on. Good job. I used to commute 18 miles each way to work across the Golden Gate Bridge every day. It was an incredible thing to do. And sometimes I would be riding my bike because I was a banquet chef, and if there was a breakfast for 2,000, we had to start cooking potatoes at 4 a.m. So sometimes I'd be on that bridge on my bike at 2:30 a.m. It was incredible.
Mm. Cool. Okay, and generally just feeling well slept. Yeah, feeling well slept is good. I love the fact that I can actually sleep. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do we go? Lion face. Thanks for the lion face. That totally helps me keep track. Wow, Terry. 2 weeks ago, I was in a wheelchair in hospital fitting. Any suggestions on getting health back?
My suggestion, or what I did, was I started super duper slow. I don't know if a wheelchair is still part of your life right now. It sounds like maybe that was just part of maybe your early recovery. I don't know. But either way, I just started super slow and did what I could. My first bike ride was actually more than maybe 2.5 months after I got sober. I was a mess,
Mhm.
and my first bike ride was like 4 miles just up the road and back, and it felt like 100. It felt like more than what I'm about to do, actually. And it was just a slow process. And that's with emotional sobriety. That's with physical sobriety. You have to just take it super slow and just take things as it comes. That's you probably hear in sobriety a lot. Easy does it, and it's so true. Just be patient. Try to
I
do a little bit. It's
I think
okay if like physical activity doesn't continually get better and better. It's all right. Sometimes you have to take a step back.
I
So
think too, one of the things to realize is bodies are pretty resilient. Like, I mean, we were watching a movie last night, beautiful movie. It was 5 Feet Apart. Just incredible. It's super sad. So, like, be ready to just, like, emote all over the place. um, but it shows you, like, the human body is pretty resilient. Like, the fact that they could go in and, like, transplant organs and then in 6 months someone's fine, that's
yeah,
pretty insane. So the body does bounce back. I mean, I remember I felt like shit for years when I was drinking, and I bounced back pretty good. Started going to the gym. I stopped now, as you can obviously tell. I don't think I have any muscles, but I need to get like a few. And you just look at it, and on what Terry was saying about taking things slow, I think the greatest gift sobriety gave me is the fact that life is slow. Like, we could slow life down and we can live the way it's meant to be. Like, time is a social institution. It's something made at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Got to do this at 6. Got to do this at 7. When we live that way, we're not supposed to live that way. We're supposed to live out, picking berries and chilling out and being like, oh well, the sun went down. I guess it's nighttime. They didn't sit around and be like, at 4 a.m. my spinach puffs will be ready. They went through and they lived life slower, and that's a gift. Like, the last 5 years for me, I have been able to drink and breathe in, not drink alcohol, but drink in life and breathe in life. And it's gone by incredibly slow. And I'm glad, because my kids are getting to be, one's going to be her last year of high school next year. The next one's got 2 years left. And I've been able to just be here
yeah,
and sit and not worry about my next call, my next business thing, the amount of money in the bank. Just look at it and be like, "Hey, I can be here with you. I don't have to be future tripping. I don't have to be planning. I don't have to be worried about these things. I can just sit and I could breathe and I could be here." And it's like Ram Dass always says, "Be here now." And he was telling the story of how he was in India, and he gets to India, and there's this guy who's been there for years, and he's driving him around, and he's talking about stories, and he's like, "Hey, we should get a boat and travel, and we should do this. Wouldn't that be a gas? Wouldn't that be a trip?" And the guy's like, "Dude, just chill. Be here now. Be here in this moment now. Because now is really all we have. And just be here. Slow life down.
yeah,
We don't have to get fast life is about buying shit, and it's about desire. I want, I gotta buy, I gotta consume, I gotta have, I gotta feel, I gotta think, instead of just being like, well, what's on the plate now? What am I gonna do today? There's nothing to do. I'll just sit out on the patio and have a cigar and watch the dog be an idiot and talk to the kids and love and live and think. So I think that's one of the best goals, is slowing things down.
absolutely. When I first got sober, I started to live. Um, I started to be very purposeful in what I was doing as I was moving forward in sobriety, and one of the things was to purposefully simplify my life. And now I understand that this is not something that everybody has the luxury of being able to do. It can be a difficult thing. Sometimes you've got a busy life. You can't stop it. But for me, what I did was I just slowly whittled things away. I not going to those bars. Those were the easy things. Not going and hanging out with the bar drinking friends because obviously I couldn't. I didn't want to trigger anything, but just slowing down, not taking on extra jobs. And once again, not everybody has that choice. I was fortunate to be able to do that. And then as far as extracurricular activities, I very much enjoy the cycling. So that's what I did. And that's what I do. I slowed it down. And, even with 5 years of sobriety now, I still learn things like for physical activity. Last year, I would train for these long rides and I'd ride every day, ride as much as I possibly can, 250 miles a week, things like that. This year, I do less than 100 miles a week and I'm stronger than I've ever been. It just goes to show that slowing down, rest, relaxing, getting that emotional serenity is what that's what really helps, and it's made me a stronger and happier person because yeah, it's just a wonderful thing, keeping life simple. uh,
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay. uh,
Um, yeah, so we just look at that and we're like, hey, it's gonna be okay. You can live on your terms. Um, so yeah.
let's see, Drew said not only that, but the money for alcohol, holy crap, like $500 a month just to drink. When I calculated that, I sobered up real quick. And you drank some expensive stuff. But no, I understand what you're saying. I was about, well, 500, that's not too much higher. I was about 300 a month. And yeah, but that didn't sober me up. That just allowed me that just made me prioritize my money. And I prioritize it towards alcohol rather than paying for things I should actually be paying for.
Yep.
Um, Brittany's responding to Drew. I don't like counting days for some reason. It puts pressure on me. So instead, I also track how much money I am saving for myself and my daughter. About $400 to $500 so far. That's insane. Yeah, absolutely. I do count days. I couldn't tell you how many days sober I am, or a month from now I won't be saying 5 years in 1 month. I just count the years. But I do celebrate sobriety birthdays. I do encourage people to do it because I personally think that every single thing you can do for accountability and to reward yourself and whatever it takes just helps in sobriety. That's what I've seen. That's what helps me and helps people I work with. But I do have people that I work with that don't count days and they don't care about their sobriety birthdays, and it's what works for them. Keeping track of money, how much you save, that's huge. That can help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
All right. Let's see. Did we do Cassie's
And my
stopping drink?
shopping? No, not yet.
And by
Um,
stopping drinking, it's
or
while my
stop.
hubby drinks beside me every evening. This is part of why I'm so happy with myself, making choices for my health in spite of drinks in front of me. Yeah, and that's a good thing, being able to stay sober and do what you do. Man from England says, "Hi guys, I'm about 2 months sober. Congrats from alcohol and weed, nearly 9 weeks, thanks to in part to this channel. That's awesome.
Good
That's why we
job.
do what we do. Also, if you guys do want to support the channel, I hired a blogger poster. You guys have seen her. Brittany does our work for us. Actually found her on the channel. If you guys do want to support us and help get the message out, go to talksober.com, click the big button. We are going to add an option, a cheaper option. I don't know, like, what do you guys want? Like 27 bucks a month or 37 or something? Just to help us keep the doors open because, there is quite a bit of cost. And right now, we are running at a loss, and I do want to get the message out to as many as possible. And your help does help us with that. And in addition, you guys also get like all kinds of PDFs. You get all kinds of audios that you can download to your phone and listen when you're at the gym or sitting, or even listen to when you're in a jam and you're feeling like, hey, I might go drink or whatever. Um, that'll help too. Caitlin, good to see you here. I think you're new. I don't think we've seen you before, but she says she's 5 years sober. Congrats on that. Absolutely awesome stuff there. And good to have you here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for sure. Focus on what you want versus what you don't want. Yes. Caitlin says, I stopped working my program and ended up relapsing after 10 years sober, but got back on my feet and loving life.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yep. I hear that a lot, and that's good. Got right back in it and moving forward. Good job. Um, whoops. I just, I click once and it
Okay.
scrolls way too far.
Brittany says, I also handle emotions with the 15-minute rule I learned here.
Yeah.
For that rule, it's basically you could stop the world in 15 minutes. Not literally, but metaphorically, your world. You can breathe and just look at what to do. Like she says, I breathe, plan what to cook, take a walk, give myself time to relax before I react. You can always stop the world for 15 minutes. That's true. And I find that like cooking and stuff, instead of being a drag now or a chore, it's like a ritual. Yeah, the kids even noticed the other day. They're like, I noticed that you like marinate stuff the night before instead of like, what the hell am I gonna make? It's everyone's hungry. Fuck.
Order
You know,
pizza.
and man, I got to tell you, I love Thai food. I'm a total Thai food junkie, and we made this Thai peanut sauce and spicy sauce chicken salad, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like like the time and the prep putting into it was so worth it. It was actually pretty easy. You just marinate it in coconut milk and what else was it? Soy
Exactly.
sauce, a little brown sugar, rice vinegar, and it was
That sounds like Thai food.
that was good. I love me some Thai food.
Right on.
Um, so yeah. Drew says, yeah, 4 days drinking was not really fun at all. It was just doing it just because, very stupid reason. And a lot of times, I mean, we drink for lots of stupid reasons, and that's okay. Uh, just get a better reason. Get a better reason to stay sober. And that's the thing is you drink because you don't have a better option. Start getting better options. What am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to take 15 minutes. Maybe I'm going to marinate the chicken. Maybe I'm going to talk to people. Maybe I'm going to reach out or whatever. All right, I lost my place now.
Okay. THC. Whoop. Why did that just? Oh, there it is. THC just said hangovers are effing horrible. Lay awake in bed full of regrets. 7 days sober today. You got 7 days again. Good job, THC. That's awesome, and we're happy to see you too. Hope you're doing well, man. Um, Jennifer says my dog is laying on me. This half husky, so we'll be trying to talk to your dog. And now I can hear the cat meowing through the door. This is incredible. What happened is my wife went to work, so now they're wondering where this noise is coming from. Uh, Jay Jay Friend. I don't have my
Fendi.
glass on. So things are a
Jay
little.
Fendi.
Oh, as a 30-year-old drinker, when trying to quit and have to cut down about half of what I used to drink, I just want to say you guys are great and make complete sense. Please don't stop doing what you're doing. Thanks, man. Really appreciate that. And you've managed to cut down to half. Good. THC Gamer says, drank a week straight a couple of weeks ago. Alcohol totally raped me, scared me straight. Couldn't sleep till last night, really. Glad detox and insomnia is over. That's what drinking straight through for an alcoholic will do. As far as make life terrible, but a lot of people it won't scare them straight. It didn't scare me straight. I drank for several years straight,
Yeah.
and I thought everything was fine. Caitlin has some things that she does in sobriety. I run, do taekwondo and yoga, and it's an amazing natural high, which I feel amazed after I work out. It helps so much mentally, physically, and spiritually. And yeah, absolutely. Physical exercise. I studied martial arts for many, many years, and it was, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do.
And the physical aspect is something a lot of us alcoholics miss out on. And it does produce happiness endorphins or something. What's that one with a D? Some kind of chemical thing in your brain. Um,
I thought endorphins.
might
Um,
not be endorphins. It's what is it? It's that word that I always talk about, but right now my brain's not working.
me neither, because now I got a cat looking for me.
Dopamine. It gives you
Dopamine,
dopamine.
that's it. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, and it definitely helps, and it'll give you a feeling of well-being and euphoria and everything like that. Probably better than alcohol. Like go for a jog or something. Jennifer says I need to sleep. Jennifer, one of the things I learned in early sobriety is it was very difficult to sleep. But I learned if you just lay there and listen to something, eventually you will fall asleep. And even
Yep.
if you don't, you're still resting anyway. So, just check it out. Jay Fendi says, it's a shame you don't have more people watching your podcast, but I assure you that you are helping people, even if you only have one person watching. You are helping, doing great work. Thanks for that. And that's why we do this. If there was one guy, we'd do it. We actually, when we first started, there was like one or two people. So, it's cool.
And it's okay.
Um,
We get a lot of views throughout the week, so it's fine.
yeah,
I think we're helping
um,
some people.
for sure. Drew says we're definitely helping him. That's good.
Good.
Linda
Thanks.
says thanks. Lily says I'm being helped. Jennifer says I miss the feeling of breathing and sitting. Island time. Yeah, and maybe go to an island for a couple days or something. I don't know, or pretend you're at an island. Yeah, my daughter always makes like these little smelly things, and it smells like an island in her room.
There you
So
go.
it's nice. It's like a little Zen center she's got going on. Every time I go in there, I'm like, it's nice in here. No wonder you're in your room all the time.
You know, you get that feeling anywhere. When I go last week, and I go every like 2.5 months to visit my family up in Seattle, and people tell me, "Oh, it's so beautiful there," and I tell them, "Well, where I go is the armpit of Seattle." In fact, there's signs right, in between from where my brother lives to where my dad lives that say the signs say prostitution activity will result in seizure of your vehicle. That's the type of neighborhood I get to go to. And the thing is there's oases all over that place. I drive 2 miles over to the water, beautiful park. I go, I go there. I go for a walk. It's not an island, but it's right on the water. It's beautiful. I get to go hang out there. Um, there's a few other places that I go, or I drive into Seattle itself and go to Green Lake. Um, so you can find these great places, and even if it's just for a few minutes, and that's what I do. I don't have a lot of time when I go there. I go for a quick walk, and then go and take care of the stuff I need to take care of when I'm there. So that helps a
Absolutely.
lot.
And the key is that place is in your head.
Yeah.
Like you could be on an island and you could be stressed out, or you can be on an island and you can be chilling. You could be in your house. You could be in the middle of the armpit of Seattle, and you could be stressed out, or you could be completely free. It's you. It's not
Yes.
where you're at,
Uh-huh.
and that's the key. Because I mean, have you not found euphoria everywhere with drinking until like it ends up not being euphoria? So you produce that state. It's not the alcohol. The alcohol just shuts off all the stuff that's stopping you from getting to that state. And it's kind of like I think it was I forgot who said it, but he's like, drugs and alcohol gets you into the presence of God or whatever, however he said it, but you only get to stay 5 minutes. Having a different life, having a different mindset, you get to stay your whole time. Stay as long as you want, right? And that's really the key is like, be here now. Relax. Live, love, chill. Cool. All right. I have habits as THC gamer. I have habits of overwhelming myself because of my OCD. I have a hard time resting my body and my mind. Then frustration kicks in, followed by complaining. Embrace the OCD. Watch it. Like there it is, doing its stupid thing. I gotta
Yep.
check the car 5 times. I gotta check my office out here. And my office built in the backyard, and I always think it's unlocked, even though we're in like a totally safe neighborhood. I gotta check it like 5 times. And the kids, even when I lock a door, I gotta pull the key out and I gotta check and make sure it's locked. And sometimes I even have to lock it again. People at hotels, when I hang out at hotels, they're like, "What the hell are you doing? You check your door 5 times. It's locked." And I'm like, "It's just what I do." And I laugh, and they laugh, and it's like, whatever. It's cool. We're good. Um, I will tell you, though, OCD and smoking is terrible because I always think I'm going to light everything on fire. So I like douse Like if a little ash falls and I know the ash is out, I still have to like pour a gallon of water on it because I think it's gonna light the entire country on fire.
I was talking to some people about some of their personal little things, uh, like personal little defects that they have in sobriety, and it's something that they have to work on every day. And working on it is just kind of when they wake up, they do their morning little things. They just kind of think about, okay, I'm going to try not to be uh, maybe OCD, or I'm going to try not to be selfish or brag about what my accomplishments, or be egotistical today, or whatever.
Mm.
And they kind of think about that. Okay, I'm not going to do that. And then the key is they try to recognize it. Like Marcus, he recognizes that he's OCD and just lives with it, and they try to recognize that, and just that's it. Just try to recognize it, correct if it needs to be corrected or not. But it's just kind of it's something. We all have these little defects that we have to deal with through life, and it's okay. We just try not to make them hurt other people.
Mhm.
Let's see.
All right. Jade, almost a month since my last drink and the first Talk Sober video. Awesome. Listen to your channel nearly every day since, thanks to Marcus, Terry, and our online community. Yep, and if you do want to join our online community, facebook.com/groups/talksober. I'll put the link in the chat box there for you. You guys can join, and it's a good place to be. Let's see.
Daniel said, I want to make the first 30 days sober. I can't make it a week. Any advice? Well, what have you done to make it for a few days? You've just been white knuckling it, or, or did you figure out something that works for just a couple days? That's the first step. But talking to people, talking to us here, talk to us on Facebook. When you're starting to get that craving, take that 15 minutes and do something else. Try to stay busy.
Oh, he says the weekend comes. Do something else on the weekends. Go to a meeting, help some people, listen to talks, go for a walk, get the alcohol out of the house. Don't go party with the party guys.
Yeah.
Nothing says that we have to drink on the weekend. I mean, I've had what? I don't know. What's the math on 52 times 5? About 280 weekends or something where I haven't had to drink.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's right.
You know, you don't have to either. People just say, oh, work sucks. We got to go drink, whatever. No, you don't. And like another guy says, have you ever heard of this drug? I'm not going to mention the drug because it's pretty hideous if it's the one I'm thinking of. It takes the edge off. Why don't you learn different ways to take edge or not put the edge on? Why do you need an edge? I don't need an edge.
Right.
It's like an edge kind of makes me a dick and it makes me, whatever. And it's like, I could take that edge off anyway. Sit for 15 minutes, be like, I don't need a substance to take the edge off. I can just feel what I need to feel. And a lot of times the edge is like anger or frustration or trying to fit things the way you want them, being a control freak. And it's like, hey, I don't have to be a control freak. I can't control anything. I can't even control if I'm going to breathe in 10 minutes. I don't know. I can't control if, anything, really. I have no control of lots of things. And I find the beauty of life is accepting the uncertainty. Like, I don't know. It's cool. I could try to fit it and be like, I'm going to get this. Like, one of my dreams is I want to get a house on the beach. And, if I don't get it, that's cool. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. Who knows?
I guess we'll be neighbors. My wife wants to live on the beach, too.
Florida beach or beach over there? Yeah.
No,
I want a Florida beach. Which I have found Florida beaches are way less expensive to live on.
Oh, I'll bet.
And they're huge. Like, you look at houses, there's like 8,000 square foot houses. I'm like, what the heck, man? I don't need one that big. So
you get about 900 square feet for about $1 million here.
Yeah, 900 here would be like 6. And then the other one's like, so 900 for 6, and then 3,000 square foot for like $1 million too. But yeah, I think that'd be cool. Have like chill out sober sessions and do videos there, and that'd be kind of cool. So support the channel so we can get beach houses. That was a joke. This is actually running a loss. But yeah, if I don't, I don't. That's cool. And you just look at it like I can be happy wherever I'm at. I actually learned to be happy in a place that I wasn't happy about living in. Um, and the happiness is in you. It's not in things. The marketing world wants you to think it's about things. So we got to look at that. All right, I think we're about out of time unless there's any last minute burning questions. Make sure you support us over at talksober.com. Click the button. You can also go to facebook.com/groups/talksober. Join our community. A lot of people in there talking about stuff, encouraging each other. Really great place to be. And yeah, I think that's about it. Any last minute words of wisdom?
Well, let's see, emotions and sobriety. We have emotions. When you first get sober, they can really explode and have a lot of emotion. And just try to learn to live with them, and it's okay. It's all right. Sad, happy. Just try not to let them force you to drink.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That alone just said I will use the 15 minutes, and yeah, that's a great advice. Use that 15 minutes if you need to. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys. Thanks again. See you next week. If I can find the off button, there it is.